Hi guys, welcome to the second part of this video series entitled Building on an Idea. The first part of this series was a video called Idea Creation where we talked about taking photos, cutting them up, mirroring them to come up with some unique spaceship designs. That video is a great way to uh, come up with some new and fresh ideas, but it doesn't really convey as much information as we want. Um, an art director from a film would want to see something presented, or in a video game, would want to see something presented in a view that shows more information. Um, in the first video, I showed you how to take your design, make a matching silhouette and side view, and then create a template much like a 3D modeler might make. This video is more about getting down to the specifics of drawing your design in perspective. Now, two things that will help you in using this technique are a solid understanding of forms like cylinders and cubes, as well as a strong knowledge of perspective. So with that said, let's get started. Okay, so returning back to our grid, we have the top view, and then we've put the top view and the side view in perspective. And we got these original images by going to photographs, lassoing them together, and coming up with some really unique ideas. And that's really the power of this whole process, is taking something that's unique like this one up here above and turning it into a drawing. Okay, in our second video we learned not only how to sketch a silhouette based on this design right here, but we also figured out how to set up this template that we will be drawing from. All of these different pieces put together are going to help us make our drawing in two-point perspective. If I had asked you to just draw this in two-point perspective without any reference, it might be very difficult. The reason that we are drawing our ship in two-point perspective is because although this here is a unique design, it doesn't convey much information. We can see it looks cool, but we don't really know how tall it is or the scale of it. In the gaming or film industry, your designs need to convey as much information as possible, and a great way to do that is to present your design in a three-quarter view. This will show us the front, the side, and the top, or in some cases you might view it from below like a massive ship, like a Star Destroyer. So that's what we're going to do now. The first thing that you'll notice is this was my original up here, and I started off with a horizon line. I made this grid, all that stuff on the last video, and put this into place. So you can check there. That video is titled "Building an Idea." Now, here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ground plane, this guy right here. I'm going to actually call that ground plane. And I'm going to turn this one down quite a bit. It's about, we'll say 30% to start. And then I'm going to take this side view and I'm going to do that as well with this one. All right. Now I'm going to leave this one up here full opacity because I'm going to reference this one and take a look at different pieces. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is just turn down the opacity on everything, which can be done right here. Okay, let's begin. So the first thing that I like to do is find some anchor points and some center points. So I'm going to go to the grid layer and use that same color blue. The next thing I'm going to do is start trying to find the center of my ship, starting with this nose cone piece right here, okay? And if I draw an X through here, in fact, right here to right here, that's how you find the true center of a skewed square in two-point perspective. All right, now that I've made an X through the center of my ground plane. If I go up to this area over here, this is vanishing point 2, and I draw a line right through the center of that X, you can see that that X, that line falls right down the center of the X. It also happens to land right here, right? So this tells me where the center of my design is. Now I'm going to do it from this direction, only I'm going to find where this line is, which is going to tell me where the front of my ship actually starts right here. So again, I just find that mark where this silhouette touches this edge right here, and then I get my ruler and I line it up. And just so you know, I am actually using a ruler on the screen. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Oops, that was my thumb in the way there. There we go. Alright, and I'm drawing these nice and thick so that you can see them. I wouldn't normally draw them that thick, but you can see that this point right here is where these two pieces will meet. Okay? And as we stated, we know that this is sort of a cylindrical shaped design, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is draw a line from here, which I'm going to do by clicking and then holding shift and clicking here. You can see that line forms. This represents the center of my ship, whereas this line down here represents the halfway point between here and then this side over here, right? This line right here is not only halfway here, but it's also the center this direction. Alright, so then the next thing I want to do is find the tallest point. Or actually, let's just focus on this nose cone for a second. Alright, we know that the nose cone is cylindrically shaped, and we also know that you can get a cylinder inside of a rectangle. So we're going to do that now. I'm going to make a rectangle shape. And now if I go back to this vanishing point and I draw a snap a line from here and here and here. Okay? Now notice I'm doing almost all of this on the grid layer, and the reason for that is I can now turn this opacity down a little bit, go to a new color. I'm going to use a nice bright lavender that we can see, and go to the sketch 1 layer, right? Like sketch in this cylinder, right? I know this cylinder lives right inside there, and this is the top and the back, and I can also see that this goes all the way back to about here, and if I follow it up to my center line, which is right here, I can see where approximately this cylinder ends, right? Hopefully that makes sense to you. I can also see that by following these lines here, I can create a second cylinder, but I'm going to go ahead and do that on this other layer. Oops, F7. I'm back on the grid layer. I'll flip back over to my blue. I don't remember what blue it was. That'll do. Okay, it's already on low opacity, but if I use this marker here and say, okay, there's a line there, I snap a line from here to here, that's the bottom of the plane. If I go vertically up from here, that's the top, and go from here to here, that's the back. And you can see it's not quite a perfect cylinder, but that's okay. And now I can sort of sketch a cylinder inside there. And you can see now I have a place for this area to exist. And I'm going to be able to work out those details later, but, all right, so now I'm going to go back to my sketch. I'm going to flip colors and go back to my sketch layer. And when I look up at here, I'm going to, kind of keep an open mind of like what I think that looks like, that this thing maybe goes to the halfway point, and then perhaps goes up here. This line looks like it goes right down the center, and then that maybe curves up a little bit there. Don't worry if it doesn't make complete sense yet. We're not quite there yet. All right, so now let's do the other two, like turbine, these guys right here. All right, right there, right? I'm going to find the center of this, which is right about here. I'm going to hold down Shift to make a line come straight up. Okay, and it looks like this wing kind of starts right here. So again, if I get my ruler out and I draw it from that first vanishing point right through that line, I should get a nice cross point. Okay, there we go, it's pretty close. These lines here are going all the way back to this vanishing point, and the other ones are vertical. I'm just sort of putting a cylinder in there. Okay. I know now though that these lines are going to go back to here. So I'm going to click back on vanishing point 2 and then hold down Shift and click here. I'm going to do that again for the top side here. And then you can see here's my center line. I'm going to find this, and this tells me where the back of the turbine is. And if I match this line to this line, I can get a pretty good approximation of where the back of this cylinder needs to be. So again, I'm going to go to my sketch. I'm going to flip the color, and I'm going to sketch that in. Make sure you're on the sketch layer, right? And it kind of looks like this wraps around a little bit. I'm going to start to put in some small details here. Okay, so now I just have two cylindrical pieces of my spaceship. All right, now let's do the one in the back. I'm going to turn this off again, go back to the grid. I'm going to hit X on the keyboard to flip these colors over here back to blue. B for brush tool. Then you'll notice the center line already goes through to the other side, so I'm going to use it now. So if I follow that over here, all I have to do is find the front piece and draw a line up, and where those two intersect is where that piece will be. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit so you can see. Right, this is the center. I'm going to mimic this, which is just these lines coming over this direction, right? And then trying to approximate a square right here. And then again for the back one, this is my line that comes over here. It looks like something about right there. Okay, so now if I go back to my sketch, I sketch this in, hitting X to switch to my pink. Now on here you can see that this cylinder sits in front of the cylinder behind it. So I don't need to draw the whole thing. Drawing through on the blue layer helps us establish that the perspective's in the right place. But because I can see that this is going to be hidden, I can actually just draw behind it if I like. This part right here, that's all I'm going to see. All right, so if I turn that grid off, this is what we have so far. Okay, well now I want to grab some other pieces, so I'm going to turn my grid back on here and turn my sketch off. Go back to grid. So if I come back here to the back of the ship, I can see that the tail touches this point right here, and I'm going to draw a line straight up. Over here, I can see that the tail touches this point, which is where it flares up. And I'm going to back out just one move there. There we go. And I'm going to get my ruler out again and draw through that point that I just made. Okay. That's going all the way back there if you can't see it. Okay. So by following this line and intersecting it to where this line is, it gets me this point right here. Okay. That tells me that the wing is going to end right here. Now I know from looking at this that this one sort of tapers upward, or we'll say upward this direction, and that according to this visual representation that it goes outward. Extending the cylinder I already have straight back will help me figure out a starting point. So you draw a straight line. You can see that the center of this and the center of this are slightly offset, right? So I can see that it's going to come out a little farther, right? And so I want to bring this out this way with my slope, and then following this curve here, sort of slope it up. I'm just going to sort of eyeball it. Right? It's a combination of this curve and this curve telling me what to do. Okay? And I'm just going to kind of map that in. And another way you can kind of semi-check it here is that this is the bottom edge of the front piece of this turbine, and if I measure down, it's approximately this tall. Okay? Same thing here, it's approximately this tall. So if I measure up from here to here, it should also be about that tall, giving me a good starting point. Okay, so that's one side of the wing. And then according to the illustration below it, it stays pretty thick up until about right here. You can see this part here is coming in. And then it starts to taper over this part right here. So I'm going to do that now. Okay. So there's a lot going on there because this is the grid slash sketch. So I'm going to go back to that sketch and go back to my pink color by hitting X. And now I'm going to follow that line around. All right, and that side's done. Okay, now let's do the other side. Going back to the blue and going back to the grid layer. I'm going to turn that off for a second. I'm going to basically do the same thing. This back here represents where the tip is, and then that is how high up it goes, so my tail ends right there. I know that it tapers up and around, so coming from about right here, if I follow this over, I also know that it goes out a little bit. I can go out and then up, right? And then same thing here. And I need to kind of connect that back right about the same distance across right here. Okay. And I'm just gonna tie all this together in a little swoop like that. And actually, let me back it up because I got a little confused there, and I was attaching it to the front turbine, and I want to attach it to this guy right here, right? Again, that part's not going to be seen. That's just there to help me, find my way. Okay. Going back to my layers, going back to the sketch and back to pink, I'm gonna basically outline this, going out with that curve and then swooping up, swooping down. I'm just trying to mimic this curve and this one. I'm trying to line these guys up over here. All right. Now I know without a doubt that this area right here is probably going to get covered up, but that's okay. If you take a look now, so this is what we have so far. All right, let's do this second set of wings right here. Okay. So to do that, I'm going to go back to the grid. I'm going to go back to blue. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to find the end of the tail on the bottom. I'm going to do it with the closer one first, which is right here. Using shift, I'm going to draw a line straight up. And if you look, this is the bottom of the silhouette right here. Boop. Okay, hopefully you can see that. I'm going to get my ruler out. And yes, again, like I said, I do use a ruler on the screen sometimes for this. Okay. Coming through right there. Okay, and that just so happens to be right above that line that we've already drawn. Then I'm looking for the piece I'm looking at here. There we go. I'm going to draw up from here. And then I know I can sort of, based on the way it looks like this is flowing, sort of point an angle down to that point. Okay, I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to mimic that over here with this one. And then where this line meets, if I draw a line from here to here, that's where that will end, right? And these particular pieces look like they aim upwards, and so we're going to make them cylinders that aim upwards just by adding some cylinders right there, some ellipses. We can add some bigger ones underneath of it. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my sketch. Go back to pink, sketch this first front piece in, back piece, most of that's going to get covered up. All right, just going to kind of sketch those two pieces in. If I turn off the grid, now that's what I have. Okay, so all that really leaves us now is the center mass. We've got the main wings and we've got the pieces that are sticking out. So we can start to kind of just put some pieces in here, okay? I'm going to turn off sketch one last time probably, go back to the grid, and kind of take a look at any other pieces that I see going on here. It looks like when I look at this right here that this goes up, back down. So if I find this center point, which looks like it follows that line, and then I turn this grid off for a second, I kind of can see that my center point right there, if I would draw up until I reach that point, right here is where the top of my ship will be, okay? So I'm going to turn off the template for just a second, take a look. Okay. If I draw a line from the center of my cylinder up here to that top center peak, that should really help me set up the center mass for my piece. So I'm actually going to go down to my sketch tool and do the same thing. I'm going to go from here to here. Oops. Let's go back to pink with X. Right, center mass. From here, it looks like it tapers down on both sides to this piece. So if I go from here to here, that looks like it goes up. And this one you wouldn't see, hardly at all. Okay, that means that all this stuff in here we're not going to see anymore. Okay, let me turn off the grid so you can see that. All right, now it's time to take some liberties and combine it with sketching. Combine sketching with what I'm looking at with my reference up above. I'm going to turn my grid on, but I'm going to turn the opacity down quite a bit more, so I just can barely see those lines. They're just now there for guidance. And I'm going to work on my sketch. Now, in this original idea sketch up here, I don't have a cockpit of any kind because it's just photographs merged together. But I would imagine it sits somewhere in this area here. So that's what I'm going to focus on now, is sort of creating this this cockpit area, right? This part here, again, is going to come down to understanding forms. As I look at this shape right here, I'm imagining sort of a dome shape that comes up and down, and so like, you know, an avocado cut in half, if you will. And so as I design things on it, I'm imagining, you know, the cuts going around in this direction and in this direction. Okay, that's an important part of doing design this way, is you have to be able to think in forms. So now that I kind of know the shape here, I'm gonna sort of sketch in what I think would be a cool looking window design wrapping around this. We'll say sort of cuts here. Well, maybe they want to be able to look above them, so it does angle backwards like this, and then maybe has a sort of aggressive forward stance like that, right? So now I can erase these lines. I don't need those anymore. Right? And I don't know if I want to have like a grate or anything over this glass just yet, so I'm going to leave that. And you can see it's kind of got this Batmobile feel to it going on right now. Like, that's okay. Okay, so now I'm going to start connecting other pieces. So you can see here, this piece right here comes up and connects on the other side of this, and then there's an angle that it goes at to about here, it looks like, right? So I'm going to sort of sketch that in now. We won't see the other side. I imagine a lot of pieces around here, but you can see behind it these two little turbines with the thing. I feel like those are a crucial part, so I want to kind of add those in. And I'm imagining that they sort of, where this goes up like this, these look like it goes back down. So from center, I'm going to come back down. And put that piece in there, and then erase out those lines, right? So kind of getting to see some of these other pieces. Okay. So here, maybe this connects like so. We know that this has got some pieces right here. So I'm going to sort of put those in and have them come out and down. Okay. I know that the nose pieces are rounded, so I'm going to round that off a little bit. And then maybe bring that around, kind of like the front of a boat or a canoe or something. Okay. These little front pieces here have some sort of grill aspects to them, so I'm going to do that now. And I'm going to turn my brush down just a little bit to do that. And again, I'm going to follow the contours. Instead of just making them, go straight across, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to angle them in an arc because this is a cylinder, remember? It goes around like that. So if you draw a cylinder in here, whoops, sorry about that, you can see the angle that it would be. So I'm going to kind of just mimic that all the way down. Okay. And the other side here, we might see a little bit of that too. I'm going to do the same thing for these, kind of following the contour, and for this one. Okay. If I turn my template off now, you can see we have a ship coming together in 3D. But this is only the first stage, and adjustments can still be made. Alright, on the last part of this video, I just want to wrap up this first initial sketch and then show you how we go from there. So here's the sketch we're working on, here's the grid, and here's our template. The last thing I want to do is maybe put in some landing gear or something. So how do we do that? Well, we know that the ground plane goes right down the middle of this, right? That's where the floor is at. And so if you just draw a straight line down until it meets there, then that's where you could put, a piece of landing gear or something like that, right? For now, I'm just gonna make that a wheel, and maybe this has some pieces that come down like this, right? Maybe you want to do another one back here somewhere. Remember that that's the ground plane, so maybe it's right here, because if they were right here, then it may not work as well. I'm going to make these more ski-like for whatever reason, just because it's more interesting. Kind of can mimic this front piece a little bit. Might actually do that here as well, sort of mimicking this ski thing. Okay. All right. So that's pretty much it for the first sketch of this. The next step would be to take these other pieces, this template, especially these lower pieces, and you don't really need those anymore. You might keep this top one around so that you can reference it for some more ideas, but you can start turning some of this other stuff off for now. And then you're going to go to this sketch here. I'm going to turn my grid way down too. Turn that sketch down. And on my last one, I'm going to go with black. And on a new layer, begin the process of my final approach on my sketch. So in this stage, it's all about refining the drawing. All right, so I'm going to do some of that right now. And sometimes what I like to do is, so I can feather my lines in a little bit, is push this button right here, which turns on the transfer. And this allows me to make it feel more like a sketch, as you'll see here in just a second. Okay. I want to focus this time on making these lines really smooth and connecting in a pleasing way. So I'm going to work on this. I'm kind of glancing up at this now and again to see how pieces are coming together on that. You can see this piece here kind of wraps around it. You can see this piece here. Looks like it might even have like some cool, lights or something on it. We're not really sure. I'm going to go through here and make these a little bit tighter. so it feels more like that grill above. Okay. Taking a look here, it looks like there's a piece that comes up to here. Maybe it's you know, an injector of some kind taking this air and like funneling it up inside there. So I'm gonna go sort of sketch that in a little bit. And one of the things you'll notice is that this actually comes up a little bit right here. So I'm gonna fix some of that right now. Make this circle a little bit bigger, which may cover up what I just drew, but that's okay. Right. This is where erasing works just fine. Right? Center line probably arcs up now instead of coming straight here. It's going to angle up because everything just got a little bit bigger. All right. Going back and putting in this piece. Okay. All right, this piece up here just continues to go higher, and as I'm making my design, I kind of keep following up with it. So there's minor corrections being made as I'm working on this second design. I'm probably going to speed up this next part because this is going to be where I start to add in a lot of little details. It may not be as interesting. Okay, and this angle now looks like it goes up a lot more. Alright, right here I want to lasso this little piece and kind of cheat this over a little bit because I don't like how much it's tucking behind the nose piece. I want to see a little bit of the other side. Okay, so that's the whole thing from beginning to end. At the beginning, we learned how to design these pieces from photographs, lassoing them, marrying them together, and coming up with some truly unique and cool ideas. Then converting those into a side view silhouette, and then finally putting all those pieces together into a 2-point perspective drawing so we can see the top, the front, and the sides all in one shot. I know there's a lot of steps here and it can be complicated, but if you master this and practice it, you can combine all these pieces to come up with some truly unique designs that no one else is coming up with by utilizing that first method. So have fun with it, practice, and I'd love to see what you guys come up with as you work on this technique. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.